Today's show is brought to you by the incredible On Top of the World chorus. Back in December, we gave you a sneak preview of their holiday concert. And see, if you caught that episode, you already know the group is more than about just beautiful harmony. They're about community, connections, and telling powerful stories through music. So, okay, this April, they're back with a very special performance celebrating our country's 250th birthday, honoring America's journey through song, the moments, the memories, and the music that shaped who we are. If you're looking for something meaningful, uplifting, and truly local to experience right here in Ocala, you don't want to miss it. Stick around. And now, let's get to today's conversation. All right, before we dive in, here's why we do this. Mission at Voices on Main Street is simple: help local businesses grow their visibility, strengthen their influence, and build real authority in their community. We shine the spotlight, but it takes the whole Voices on Main Street family to lift these businesses up. Stick with us because later in the show, I'm going to show you exactly how you can support today's guest. Now, today, we're sitting down with Alex Bickerstaff from Black Belt Landscape. And if you live in Massachusetts, this is a conversation you should not skip. There's a lot of bad advice out there when it comes to landscaping, and Alex is the guy who gets called after those mistakes get made. He's here to talk about what actually matters in New England landscaping and how winters change everything and how homeowners can make smart decisions instead of expensive ones. This is practical, straight shooting advice from someone who's in the trenches every day. So let's jump in. All right, we're going to go right into Pass the Mic. Now, Alex, before we get into landscaping, we always start with Pass the Mic. The previous guest left you a question. This was Jeff Stone from Hurricane Pond. And he asked this: ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. So, what does that mindset mean to you? And how does it show up in how you run your business and serve your customer?
I spent a lot of time actually thinking about this question the past couple snowstorms that we've had since you and I have talked. And I thought about it because there's so many things that we can do for the country, especially right now. And so I brought it even down to a micro level. I think that helping your country starts by helping your community, because when you give back to your community, they pass it on to the next person who passes it on. And as a whole, that helps the country. We do that here by contributing in local fundraisers, in local events, parades, helping out the schools around here, as well as providing jobs to people that live in the communities that we work in. It's super important to me to be able to pay fair wages to people that do great work, and they're able to live a great quality of life here in the towns that we service. So that's how we work on trying to help out our countries, by starting at the community level and passing that on from community to community.
Awesome. All right, great. And all right, Alex. Now, this next segment, it's called People Are Asking. So these are questions that Massachusetts homeowners are typing into Google, asking AI, asking Siri. We're going to go through them quickly. And so let's start with number one. How much does professional landscaping cost in Massachusetts?
On average, professional landscaping for our full package services, usually it ranges from about $400 to $500 a month, but that's going to include everything throughout the course of the season. That's going to include cleaning up the lawn in the spring. That includes the mowing, your mulching, trimming up the bushes, your fertilization package, in the fall, cleaning up the yard before the snow comes. So usually about $400 to $500 a month from April to November, December will usually get your lawn and your entire property taken care of for the whole season.
Awesome. Awesome. And that brings up a good question. When is the best time to start landscaping in Massachusetts?
The best time to start in the spring is either March or April. You don't want to start too early. Just because the snow is gone doesn't mean that the yard is ready. You need the yard to thaw and then need it to dry out before you really start to put the rake or put equipment on the lawns, so that way you don't sink in and rut the yard and make it worse. So usually sometime in March or April, but really it depends on, is the yard dry enough to be able to walk on it comfortably without sinking and feeling like you're waddling around like a penguin.
Good analogy. And let me ask you this then. What landscaping services matter most for our New England homes?
I would say for our New England homes that your spring and your fall cleanup are probably two of the most important services that you can get. In the spring, it's cleaning up the sticks, the acorns, the extra leaves that got left over from the fall and have sat there all winter, getting the yard ready to grow and to really push forward and establish itself after a tough winter like we have here in New England. And then in the fall, getting all the leaves cleaned up off the lawn before the snow comes is ideal, just so that way they're not sitting there breaking down and potentially causing issues to the lawn over the course of the winter.
Interesting. Interesting. So let me ask you, how do these Massachusetts winters affect lawns and landscapes?
Well, it depends because Massachusetts winters can range from crazy to nothing at all. But usually, on average, it's the freeze thaw cycles are probably some of the most difficult, the most challenging things for the yard and for patios, for hardscapes, for everything around the property. You also get salt damage from having to salt the roads along the edge of your yard, as well as damage from the wind. When the branches are all covered in ice, they have that extra weight. The wind comes through and takes branches down. And we found that the yards that recover the best are the ones that get the appropriate attention come springtime, starting at the right time, cleaning up everything, getting everything reseeded what needs to be. And these problems don't just happen all of a sudden. The snow melts and you're like, oh gosh, there's all these problems. They usually start in December and January. So you want to get after them because they sit for a couple of months and now we can finally get to them, usually come March, April.
Interesting. And let me ask you this: what's the difference between lawn care and, say, full service landscaping?
So in when I think of that, when I hear that lawn care versus full service, when I hear lawn care, I think of cutting the grass and fertilization services. They're taking care of the lawn itself. When I hear full service, which is a lot of what we focus on, we're taking care of your entire property. We're making sure the lawn is good. We're making sure that your landscape beds with all your plants in it are good. All your bushes are healthy and appropriately trimmed. We don't do any tree work, but we're keeping an eye on the trees. If we notice anything, we'll let you know and refer you to one of our vendors that we work with for tree work. Full property, full service, we are checking everything, making sure your whole property is set and good. Lawn care is more just, hey, your lawn looks good. Let's go from here.
Interesting. So let me ask you this then how often should landscaping be maintained in Massachusetts?
We offer a lot of different services, but some of the core services we offer, like mowing, we recommend usually mowing once a week, especially in the spring and in the fall when it's ideal temperatures for growing grass. Come summer, it dips down a little bit. If you don't have irrigation or your yard bakes in the sun, you can sometimes switch it to every other week. Your other services like mulching, spring and fall cleanups, those happen once a year. Aeration and overseeding, you typically do that in September. And your bush trimming, you can do, once, twice a year. Not to mention fertilization as well, which of course you can do multiple times, usually anywhere from 4 to 8 services, depending on what kind of package you get for your lawn and how much attention it needs.
Interesting. All right. Well, let me ask you this then what are some of the most common landscaping mistakes that homeowners make?
I would say the number one most common mistake that I see homeowners make is doing things at the wrong times. Getting out and starting their spring cleanups too early and stressing out the grass, putting fertilization down at the wrong times, whether it's too early to be effective or even too late to be effective. Landscaping really comes down to a timing thing, especially in New England where the weather can be so volatile. I can wear shorts in the morning and be in a winter jacket in the afternoon. Timing is
Vice
key and it's
versa.
crucial. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see up here.
Yeah, I can see that, or vice versa. You
Hmm.
start out at 0 degrees and then you're stripping by noon.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of homeowners are wondering, is professional landscaping worth it for their property value?
It is so worth it. There was actually a study done by the National Association of Realtors along with the NALP, which is the National Association of Landscape Professionals. And they found in their study that on average, homes that have professional and above average landscaping are 15% or more valuable than other properties that are looking to sell. So if you put the money into your landscape, really have it professionally maintained, especially when you're going to sell, you will see an actual return on your investment in the form of getting more money for the sale of your home.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. All right. This is what everybody in New England's asking. How do I prepare my yard for New England weather changes?
You hope and pray to some extent, let's be honest here. But no, the biggest thing is just while timing is super important, taking your time, not rushing it, not trying to be like, oh, this is the first day of good weather we've had. We've got to get after it. I would say definitely your cleanups are going to be your most important thing, getting the yard cleaned up in the spring and in the fall. then I would say your cut height for lawn mowing. If you want your grass to stay green all year round, July and August, it can get super hot here and we have droughts. You want to cut it longer at that period of time. Yeah, you might have to cut it more often, but it'll help keep the grass green and keep it from getting stressed. And then fertilizer. If you apply fertilizer to help add nutrients back to the lawn at the right times of the year, that's just going to really help it. So that way, if the temperature changes or there's no water, too much water, if you have the right program set up, it's going to help your lawn and yard just coast right on through any of those issues.
So that's gold for our homeowners. Last one here for our people are asking, how do I choose a reliable landscaper in Massachusetts?
I have found whether it's my company or I'm friends with a lot of other landscape companies in the area, you want to check out, honestly, the Google reviews are huge. I've found that companies that usually have a lot of really good reviews, there's usually a reason. And sometimes companies that don't have quite as good reviews, well, there's usually a reason, unfortunately. So I would definitely start by looking at reviews for the companies. The other thing that you can do is look at Facebook community groups. We have some here local that people are asking all the time. And, I see the names popped up, whether it's mine or someone else's. And the good companies are the ones that are constantly getting referred. So I would say your Google reviews are number one, but also just asking in those local community groups, because people that have great experiences, they're going to tell you and they're going to shout people's names from the rooftop. And you want to listen to those names that they give out.
Awesome. Awesome. Alex, I truly appreciate you breaking that down for our customers. Again, folks, that was our people are asking. And if you have any other questions, you can always reach out to Alex to get those answers. All right. Now let's switch gears for a minute, Alex. This isn't about landscaping. This is about you. What originally pulled you into landscaping?
Oh man. So this would have been back when I was in middle school, probably. And so I always wanted a MacBook Pro. I thought that they were the coolest thing. I mean, this is probably 2011, 2012. And I'm just a kid. I have no money. And so I go to my parents, hey, I really want this thing. And they said, that's cool. How are you going to make money to get that thing? And the only thing I knew how to do was to use my dad's lawnmower. And I would go do our yard. I would go do the neighbor's yard. They would drive me across town to a friend's house to mow the grass there. And so it started as that, and then over the years it's just grown and grown, especially once I got my own car and I could drive once I turned 16. Then I was putting a push mower in the back of my 2001 Subaru Forester, driving around. Like I'd pull up to high school with a wheelbarrow ratchet strapped to the top of my car. But that's how it started. I got into it because my parents, instilled that belief in me. If you want something, you got to go get it. And to this day, that's still very much what drives me. There are a lot of things that I want, whether for myself or for the community, for my people that work for me. And I just strive every day to try to get after that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. This one I hadn't planned on, but I'm curious to know why call it black belt landscaping?
Why call it black belt landscaping? Well, way back in the day, it was Alex's backyard business. And as the business grew to more than me at 12, 13 at the time and four neighbors, I was like, man, Black Alex's backyard business doesn't really describe what we're doing. It sounds like a kid going around doing yard work. And I
Mhm.
wanted to really make the name more professional. And so I trained in martial arts since I was 4. So I mean, we're talking 22,
Mhm.
23 years now. And so my dad and I, when we were coming up with names, I just black belt landscaping. I just gotten my black belt at the time. And I was like, man, I love that name. My dad's like, it's cool that you picked one, but let's come up with more. We came up with a list of like 15. And we looked at the list and we were like, nope, black belt landscape. And that's the one. It ties into who I am personally. Martial arts has had a huge impact on my life. And it also just resonates what I want to convey to people in the area, that we hold ourselves to these high standards like a black belt would in martial arts. We have these high standards of respect and courtesy and honesty, accountability, making and giving that as part of our service.
That's awesome. That is really, really awesome. All right. That is great. That's a little bit of behind the scenes for you there, folks. Black belt landscaping. That's interesting. All right. We're going to do a little segment that we call the local loop. And what that is, we are actually going to spin a wheel. And I'll talk about it when we're in the middle of it. Let me just share my screen here. All righty then. Let's hide this. Here we go. All right. So on this spin, we have a few different things. We got the local love drop. That's where Alex drops some special offer on you. We've got the community action. Oh, it lands on the local love drop. That's awesome. So basically, where Alex, what do you have for our viewers today?
All right, so here's something that is, I can't believe that we're going to give away, but here we go. So we offer professional property assessments. What I was talking about with that full property services. So I try not to give these away too often, but if you mention the show, what I can do is we're going to give away a free professional property assessment where I will come out to your home, I'll walk the property with you, and we're going to talk about everything from A to Z, what your property needs. We're going to talk about your lawn. We're going to talk about the beds, the bushes, the trees. We're going to come through. We will take a soil sample so that way we can get you on the right fertilizer plan for your property specifically. And afterwards, I come up with a custom plan for you and your property, exactly what it needs based on my professional opinion. And we'll go through it all together. If you have questions, if you want to make changes, we can spend up to an hour just walking around your yard talking about what it actually needs. And we're also going to give away with that a $150 credit towards that service when you sign up for it after we go through the whole thing. So we want to make sure Jack is taking care of us. So we want to make sure that we take care of you guys, the listeners, with that property assessment to really walk you through and make sure that your home gets the best care it can get.
So awesome, folks. You heard it here. The professional yard evaluation. And with an additional $150 credit. So that's a tremendous love drop. Thank you very, very much for that, Alex. We
Yeah.
do appreciate that. All right. That is the local loop. Now, our next segment, before we move on, can you give Massachusetts homeowners just one quick takeaway that they can act on this season?
One quick takeaway to act on this season. I'd say I know we're in winter, but I'm always thinking like 4 months in advance.
Mhm.
So my biggest thing that I always see is like a mistake, and if anything that I would implore you to do is your cut height when you're mowing. Your cut height is really going to determine how well your lawn, whether you fertilize, whether you use water, any of that stuff. It's really going to determine how effective it is at keeping your lawn healthy throughout the entire season. When we start in spring, we have a lot of fescue grass. We have some ryegrass up here, some Kentucky bluegrass. We're primarily a grass type called fescue. And that does really well when it's cut a little bit taller. Everyone likes to cut their grass low because you don't have to cut it as often and it looks nice and clean. But you want to cut your lawn usually in the spring between 3 and 3.5 inches. Once we get to typically June, I bump that up to about 4 inches. And then through the summer, we're at 4 to 4.5 inches, depending on how dry it is or how much water we're getting. And then once you get back into the fall, that's when you start to drop it again, down to 3.5, usually in September. And then we get into October and November, and we do final cuts of the year at 3 inches. But I'd say that one biggest tip for Massachusetts homeowners is going to be that just adjusting your cut height throughout the entire course of the season to correspond with the weather. And that's really going to set you apart from so many lawns. If your lawn's been struggling, I would start there to start fixing it for sure.
Awesome. Excellent. That's some good advice. Okay, folks, going to move on. Up until now, I've been steering the conversation, but right now, we're going to do our flip the mic segment. So, Alex, if this is your moment, anything you want, you can talk about something important to you, a message, story, you can flip it back to me. Sir, the mic is yours.
I would love to flip it back to you actually, Jack, because I would love to know what inspired you to start this podcast to give small business owners like us a platform to chat? I want to hear like, is there something that you saw where like, man, I see the need for this? Is there something in the past that you've done that's brought you here where you're like, this could really help? I would love to hear about what inspired you to do this.
Thanks for asking, Alex. For me, this was a full circle moment. For I was a disc jockey for 40 years, and I mean it not on the radio. I love interacting with people, and I'm not one of those guys that like me. I don't like the light on me. I like to shine it on other people. And like weddings, it was great for me because I got to shine the light on couples. And then as I neared the end of that career, I was thinking, well, now what do I do? Right? Everybody wants to see the DJ. And that was around 2013. And digital was really becoming important to small businesses. Going online became a matter of, it wasn't nice to have, is you got to have this stuff. And obviously, I'm a boomer, and I wanted to kind of help my generation with digital marketing. So I started looking at marketing, and for the last 5 years while I was still DJing, I was doing the marketing, and I loved it. And there was so much stuff, but it was like there was no me in that. I can do this, I can help you with that. But nobody wants to see the marketing guy coming, until you proved yourself. And so I started looking at ways, how can I help? And then I stumbled across a way to do that. And what I started to do was just doing interviews with local businesses and then providing them that content to put on their website. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said, you should use your voice, do voiceovers or something. I'm like, I thought about that. I know I've got the voice, but interact with people. That's where my energy comes from. The greatest feeling for me when I was DJing is when I was getting ready to bring the next song in, people would be like, yeah, and for me, I'm like, yo, I want to feel that again. It's the next song. And then I was talking to another person I work with, and she said, why don't you do a podcast? And I'm like, wait a minute, get to use the voice. I get to promote other people. I get to interact with people. And I'm like, you know what? And I'd already done 4 or 5 interviews with some of my current customers. So we call that the Origin series. So if you go on the website, you'll see that. And then Voices on Main Street just was born. And I can't tell you that at 70 years old, I found what I'm supposed to do with my life. I just can't explain how important it is to me. But yeah, that's what brought me to this day.
No, that's so cool. I love to hear that. And again, I really appreciate you having me on to be able to share my story exactly like you've been doing with others.
And that's the whole point is, you have a story, you have this knowledge, and we're doing this. There's actually 2 audiences online. There's the human audience, and then there's the bots. And those are 2 completely different audiences. So how do we make it compatible? And that's, again, the basis on this story is to be able to combine those 2 audiences and give both of those audiences the information they need. It gives you that voice, it gives you that outlet for people to hear what you have to say. So I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, folks, you might remember back in the day, and I know I'm a boomer, but I think even Alex might remember this one. It's time to make the donuts, right? And that's the guy, the baker, getting up early in the morning and going to make the donuts, which is going to make money, right? So we call this next segment Time to Make the Donuts. And what we're going to do is, this is where we help to shape marketing clips. We're going to have Alex do his very own commercial. This is the kind of segment that when we're done in airing, that Alex will be able to use to promote his business. Alex has decided that he's going to do that for us. Alex, it's time to make the donuts. The floor is
Yeah, no,
yours.
for sure. When I saw this, it really made me think of our mission statement because it really drives who we are and kind of the people that we attract, both for customers and for people working for us. So our big thing here at Black Belt Landscaping is a people first company that's dedicated to being the most trusted landscaping partner in our community. We deliver exceptional service while cultivating a team culture of respect, ownership, and continuous growth. So that way our customers can enjoy beautiful outdoor spaces that they can take their family and friends, and our crews can thrive in a supportive environment to support their families and help transform people's yards.
Awesome. Awesome. That's incredible. All right. And now, speaking of making the donuts, here's a few words from our sponsor. All right. I just want to take a quick moment to tell you what makes Voices on Main Street different. If you're watching this episode, it's because you want real answers. And that's what Voices on Main Street is built around, asking the questions that people are already asking, whether they're typing it into Google, asking Alexa, Siri, or even your friends. These are the questions that matter before you spend your time, your money, or your trust. Every conversation you hear on this show is all about clarity, understanding how things really work straight from the people living and working right here in your community. And when you tune in, you're doing more than listening. You're helping shine a light on local voices, the local businesses, and local stories that deserve to be heard. So this conversation is helping you. Stick with us, and let's keep moving Main Street forward together. All right, back to the show. And we're back. That was a quick one. All right, segment next coming up. We got to pass the mic forward. And before we wrap up, we always have this tradition. Alex, what's one question you'd like to pass forward to our future guests?
The one question that I have, because it was a question that I got asked a few years ago, and I'd like to ask others, is if you could install one belief or mindset into every new business owner, what would it be?
One mindset of belief in. All right, excellent. All right. Now, this next section is the what we call the Bombs Boost. So what it is, the Voice on Main Street family, what we're looking to do is we want to turn listening into action. So you just heard Alex share his story, his experience, and a ton of value that most people would normally have to pay for. And this is what Voices on Main Street is all about. And it ties right into our Voices for the Voiceless, where we use this platform to support the people and organizations who don't always get heard. Now, most local businesses don't have ad budgets, they don't have a PR team or big media behind them, but they do have a voice. And when they come on this show, we're saying you matter, your work matters, your story deserves to be heard. Well, folks, our viewers, it's now your turn to carry that voice a little further. So here's how you can support Black Belt Landscaping and honestly, any local business that you care about. Like their content. Share this episode with someone who needs it. Follow this page. Subscribe to this show so you don't miss future stories. And if you're already a customer, and this part is huge, folks, leave a Google review. A Google review is the single greatest online action you can take for a local business. It helps them get found, it builds trust with new customers, and it costs you nothing but a minute of your time. So, Bombs family, go share, follow, subscribe, and if Alex and his team at Black Belt Landscaping has ever taken care of your yard, go drop them a real honest Google review and tell people what they did for you. That's what we do here, and that's how this community lifts each other up. All right, and now we reward the people who stayed with us through the boost. And if you're still here with us right now, it's a little boost for you. We call this the mystery gift. So, Alex, for the folks who stuck around to the end, what are you putting on the table as a thank you for taking action and supporting our local businesses?
Yeah, so for our mystery gift, what we're going to give away is we are going to give away one free treatment of our fertilizer program. And so what we'll do is we'll come out, we'll determine what program your lawn needs in order to get the best results. And that first application that you get is going to be completely complimentary from listening to the show, helping us to grow, and sharing your experience with us through reviews and through sharing our platform.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, all right, folks. Well, for the full story, bonus clips, and more conversations like this one, visit voicesonmainstreet.com. Make sure you subscribe, share the episode with a friend who needs it, and come back to hear how our next guest answers the pass the mic question. Alex, thanks for being here. And to everyone listening, we'll see you on Main Street.
Thanks for having me, Jack.
You're welcome, sir. Have an amazing day. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you this. Voices like the one you heard today don't happen by accident. They're powered by local businesses who believe in showing up for their community. If you're a business owner who wants to be seen, heard, and trusted right here on Main Street, sponsoring Voices on Main Street puts your message in front of an engaged local audience that actually listens. Our sponsors aren't interrupting the conversation. They're part of it. Your business gets aligned with real stories, real people, and real community impact. Again, if that sounds like the kind of visibility you want, reach out to us and let's talk about becoming a sponsor. Thanks for being part of the Voices on Main Street family, and we'll see you the next time.